Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And if we're being very specific, it's not even an edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show per se, in and about itself, because tonight, Tuesday evening, approximately 10 past 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about NWA Power. We're going to do a post show tonight, and I'm trying this out. By the way, hi and welcome if you're watching this live here on YouTube, on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, because yes, I will be doing these live, and I'm going to try this out. We're going to see exactly how this happens, how we go about. Will this become a thing? I hope so, and I'll tell you why I hope so. I hope so because I really like NWA Power. I love what they're doing with it. It's the most fast-paced wrestling show out there. It's crazy the rhythm with which things happen in this show. It's just like one thing after another. Nothing is wasted. There's not a second of airtime that's wasted. It's fantastic. And I was chatting with Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful, just exchanging a couple of DMs, and he was like, I was just talking about things, and he was like, you know, I love your excitement for the show, but it's very natural to me. He says, I love your excitement. And the pace, just the way everything is just delivered, it's crazy. And I'm really glad that I've decided to take an opportunity to talk about it, because I feel that there's not enough of us talking about it out there, giving it the proper time of day. And not that I'm anything special. I just want to signal boost. Whatever my little nook of the internet here can do to give a little more attention to Power and the good stuff that they're doing there, the good stuff that the NWA is doing right now, it'll be my pleasure to do so. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, hello to everyone who is here live in the chat, because as usual, I do my stuff live, or at least, 90% of my content is done live here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. We've got Kristen Ashley, who's in here tonight. JS Brown as well. Carlos, Everything Pro Wrestling is here as well. How you doing? We have Aaron J's fan is here. Chris Matthews, Robert Larry, RJ Krasinski is here as well. All exciting stuff. I'm still stunned. Like, I decide to pull this off on a Tuesday night where my usual streams are over on Thursdays, and you guys pop in anyway. Anyway, listen, if you wouldn't mind, if you're here live, if you wouldn't mind giving the video a thumbs up, that'd be fantastic. I would really appreciate it. It will help out getting the word out there. And you can feel free to share this out into the interwebs as well. That'd be great too. Even if you're watching this on demand, that's fantastic. And I think I'm going to pop this over on the podcast section of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show as well. So you'll probably be able to listen to this on your favorite podcast application, whether it's from Apple, Google, or anything in between, including Spotify, Stitcher, and all of that. You'll be able to listen to this as well. So thank you very much for being here. I won't be as extensive with the plugs as I usually do on Thursdays, because I really want to get into this, but don't forget, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show happens every Thursday night live right here, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I also do a post stream every Thursday immediately after the main Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I do that for my Patreons. For the people who support the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, we have another live discussion on another topic that I wasn't able to cover during the course of the regular show. Patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you want to support the show, you can go check that out. And of course, I'm over on Fightful every Wednesday night with Alex Pulaski and Sean Ross Sapp talking about the Wednesday night wars. I still haven't adjusted from the 1990s. I'm still stuck in that era. What can you do? Wednesday Night Wars covering NXT and AEW. And then I also have the Friday. I also have the Friday night post shows. I also have the Friday night post show, SmackDown post shows with your boy Sean Ross Sapp over on the Fightful channel as well. So, oh, look at that, we have a new subscriber. Look, we have a new subscriber. Everyone say hello to Trey Willier, who decided to subscribe during the stream, and then we get this invasion of stuff here. Apologies to anyone who has I don't know, fear of emoticons. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. It's fantastic, and I really do appreciate it. Let's get down to brass tacks, though. Let's start talking about the NWA Power Edition. Like I said, November 5th, 2019. Got a recap of the events that happened last week. Starting off with an interview with Colt Cabana. He joined David Marquez. Cabana puts over his win from last week. As you may recall, we had Team Aldis against Team Storm, where basically the winner of this match was going to either two things were going to happen. If Team Aldis was going to, let me start over here. If Team Aldis was going to win the match, Colt Cabana would get a shot at James Storm's NWA National Championship. However, if James Storm were to win, well, he then would get a shot at Nick Aldis's NWA Championship, but World Championship. But he would have to relinquish his NWA national title. I'll get through this. So Storm with his back against the wall, a bit of a win-lose situation, regardless of how you look at it, or more like a lose-lose situation, I guess, in a certain way. But he decided to go ahead and accept the challenge, and Colt Cabana won for Team Aldis. He got the pin last week, and he was very excited. He said he deserves to be in the main event. He's worked really, really hard for this. And he was very proud to win, to get the pin last week, defeat Team Storm. And now he gets a shot at the national championship, which will be in the main event of tonight's edition. We move on to, probably right now, the guy who is the most fun to listen to on NWA television. We have Aaron Stevens, who comes in. And he blames his loss, his recent loss against Ricky Starks, on ring rust. Because he has been a little bit out of the business for a while, right? He hasn't been exactly wrestling every week. He was gone doing Hollywood things. But he says that despite the fact that he lost the match against Starks, he has the pedigree, he has the background, so he is naturally better than Ricky Starks. I mean, that loss was a fluke, and he's out to prove everyone wrong by getting a rematch against Starks, but not any kind of rematch. And he wants the NWA to step up here because he has a script in his hand. He says, I have a Hollywood script in my hand, and if the NWA doesn't live up to its side of the bargain, I am out of here. I'm hitting the bricks. I love Aaron Stevens. I love this person, this character they have going for him. He is just the perfect over-the-top heel, demanding that no one makes eye contact with him. He has all these little things already. He's been a fairly, well, when did he show up? Episode 3, I think. And he already has the no eye contact thing set up, and no, when he's in the ring and something bad happens, he goes no, and everyone is already chanting yes. He puts over the fact that he's an elitist, that he's better than everyone. I love how he calls the audience insolent knaves, and he calls for silence, which is, when you think about it, when Aaron Stevens calls people out and or tells the audience to be silent by shouting out silence, it is literally the bourgeois, high class what chant. That's essentially what it is, and I love it. So basically, we're getting a 2 out of 3 falls rematch, Stevens versus Sparks, later on in the evening, because he thinks that this is a match that befits him better, and he will be able to prove, thanks to this match, without a shadow of a doubt, that he is better than Ricky Starks. Next, we have The Dawsons, the first match of the evening, the Dawsons in a tag team match against Jordan Kingsley and Mims. I talked about this on my main stream a couple of weeks ago when I don't remember when Mims was on, and I was like, when let's say you're a kid and you want to be a wrestler, and you're thinking about cool names for your wrestler, for your you're playing wrestler or whatever, and you're like, it's like, my name is gonna be Johnny Rocket, my name is gonna be Damian Thunder, stuff like that. Then you have this kid over here, it's like, my name's gonna be Mims. I love it. It's fine. It's fine. I just think it's fun. The match starts off and Mims is actually in control for a while until Kingsley tags himself in and then goes for, I think he was trying to go for a Stinger Splash or something, but he hits a forearm he hits a Dawson forearm, and that turns the tide of the match to the heels. The Dawsons hit a double stalling vertical suplex, double team power slam elbow drop. They go for the cover, but they lift. They break up the pin. They don't let Kingsley get the 3 count. But the match comes to an end when Mims eats a double power slam, and that's that. After the match, the Dawsons. So the Dawsons win. And after the match, they request a title shot. They say they deserve the title shot because they do. They do. They have a winning record. They've pretty much beat every tag team that they've faced. So they're requesting a tag team shot. But out come Outlaw Inc., Eddie Kingston and Homicide. Kingston comes out and he says, look, I'm not going to come out here bitching about the fact that we lost to you guys in no disqualification. I think it was last week, if memory serves me right. Or was it the week before? It's a bit fuzzy, but they did lose to the Dawsons in a no DQ match. But Kingston says that they should wrestle one more time. Both of those teams, they need to wrestle one more time, and they being Outlaw Inc. have a title shot lined up, and they are willing to put their title shot out up for grabs in this match here. So the winner becomes the number 1 contenders for the NWA Tag Team Championships. So cool. Stakes, adding stakes to a match. That's something I can get behind, and it's something that the NWA has been doing really, really well since its inception. Nothing feels, like I said at the start of the show, nothing feels wasted. Everything seems right on the spot. But as it stands, the only thing that irks me is that the Dawsons do have a legitimate claim over the tag team titles. And I don't know why Kingston and Homicide had this shot, because they did lose to the Dawsons last week. I mean, of course, this isn't, it's not necessarily AEW where we keep getting bashed over the head that wins and losses matter. We don't know yet. And I'm okay with creative direction, but to a certain point. It's just here the Dawsons have a compelling case. But as I like to say, oftentimes, there's nothing better than a heel who's right. A heel who has a point is one of the best heels you can have, because it makes it so much more infuriating to hate them, because in this case, I find they have a solid grasp on a solid hand on the number 1 contendership here. So basically, the Dawsons say they'll think about it, and they walk away. They'll say, we'll see what happens. We're not sure yet. How's everyone in the chat doing? Hey, Jason PS3 is here as well. How you doing? Welcome to the chat as well. I don't know if y'all did have a chance to watch NWA Power tonight. Let me know what you guys thought. Tim Storm is being interviewed by Joe Golly, and outside of a ring, he's wearing, he being Tim Storm, he's wearing a suit. He's looking very, very dapper and professional. Our wrestling dad. and he basically he's saying Joe was asking him, what's next for you? What's next for your career? And Tim Storr says that he went after the title. He went after Aldis for the NWA World Title, and he doesn't regret doing it, and he doesn't regret losing as well. But he still has some decisions to make. He says that he hates hearing that the NWA championship is out of his grasp, because Gali at some point tells him, there's not just the NWA title here. There's the national championship. There's the tag team championship that you could go for. Storm said, it kind of bums me out to think that the heavyweight championship might be out of my hands, and he says, not because the other titles aren't prestigious, he'd be honored to hold any of those mid-card titles. He didn't say mid-card. That's me paraphrasing. He just doesn't know what direction he's going in right now. And then Nick Aldis arrives, and he sort of whisks Storm away from Joe Gali, and Gali's like, all right, fine, I like the fact, that Aldis kind of, he doesn't give a shit about Joe Gali. He really doesn't. Like over the interviews that they had, and he's always very pissy with Gali. And so he just like walks in and he says, excuse me, and he takes him away. Gali, being the professional, he's like, well, okay, oop-de-derp, what am I supposed to do? This is the world champion. But you can tell, of course Nick Aldis was like, here, it's my pleasure to break up this interview, you little shit. So Aldis basically just carries him, walks Storm away from like direct cameras, but you can still pick up the conversation because Tim Storm is still mic'd. You can hear the conversation, and Nick Aldis basically says, that don't make a decision that you're going to regret here. He says, I know you have people like Eli Drake in your head, and telling you stuff, but all of this ring, this house, you and I, we built it together. This is our place. Think about what your next move is. Don't say something that you feel you might regret down the line. You know who you are. And he leaves, he being Aldis, he leaves, and he lets Storm there to think about it, to wonder what the next step is. Now, here's the thing. There's a couple of things here. First and foremost, and I didn't talk about, I'll get this out of the way. First and foremost, what is Tim Storm turning heel? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Like Tim Storm. I said it is our wrestling dad, right? The good guy. We saw him in his environment with, he's a teacher. He's a school teacher. He's educating the next generation. He still talks to his mother, who worries about him. We've all heard these things. And he loses his championship. He's lost direction. And you got Nick Aldis coming over and saying, buddy, hey, just think about who you are. Don't do anything you'll regret, Sure, why wouldn't Tim Storm carry a grudge against Aldis at this point? Even if it's just like, you beat me. Wouldn't that be great? It's like on an upcoming episode, you have Tim Storm who comes out and he turns on Aldis or whoever. And just gets really, really mad, and he says, like, I'm tired of people telling me what to do. I am a former NWA heavyweight championship, and now people are treating me like I should be in a hospice somewhere, like I should retire. That'd be so good. I think we should try that. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to see. Second thing I want to bring up here, and I'd want to know what you guys think. What is Eli Drake's end game? Because he's been doing, he's been an agent provocateur. A shit stirrer, if you prefer. That's all he's been doing. He's been hitting the interview booth when other people are out there and telling them, hey, don't settle for this. You want X, but you should go for Y because you're amazing. And he's done that with James Storm. He's done that with Tim. all he's been doing for the past couple of episodes is just like putting ideas into people's heads and just, stirring shit up. And I really wonder what his end game is. Well, he said it, his target is the NWA World Championship, but how is he achieving that? Just getting his opposition out of the way? Getting them busy on other stuff, or just knocking them off so that he has a clear path after? I don't know. I think it's interesting because, Eli Drake, he's not, he didn't go into, he didn't do the interview last week, or the segment, just out of the goodness of his heart to say, yes, Nick Aldis, you're fantastic, and you, and you, James Storm, you should be next in line for the title. He's a conniver, he's a schemer, he has something up his sleeve, but what is it? That's what I'd like to know. Chris Matthews in the chat says that tonight's episode of NWA was really good. Kristen Ashley asks, can Tim Storm be heel? Well, I mean, sometimes all you need is a little push, a little something different. It depends. I don't know how they could. Why not? Why not at this point? Just try it out. It could be really, really interesting. If it's done well, if the execution is done well and it's a nice, proper heel turn, it would be so different from what we've been introduced. It could get really, really good. And just give him motivation, just add extra character motivation to keep him, up in the upper card, which I feel is what they want to do with him. We'll see what happens. Thunder Rosa debuted tonight. She defeated Ashley Vox. Interesting, because these are both ladies who have wrestled, who gained a certain amount of notoriety wrestling under a different name or a different character. Oceana for Ashley Vox over in Chikara. Thunder Rosa is Cobra Moon, Lucha Underground. Serpentine, right? In Women of Wrestling and WOW. But she's full on Thunder Rosa tonight. Lots of strikes by both women. Rosa is clearly the aggressor on this one. She even no-sells a couple of strikes from Vox at some point. There's a punch and an axe kick that takes Vox down, and see, she has too many names. Rosa then locks in a body scissors. Eventually, Vox does get out of it. She satellites into the biggest catch or finisher move, but Rosa powers out of it, kicks her down, and a double stomp off the top rope does it, seals the deal. Thunder Rosa wins the match. After the match, and the match was fine in and about itself. It was okay. But this was all setting up a story. So essentially, they after the match, Thunder Rosa beats up Vox some more. She goes after him, and then Marty Bell runs it. Now, Marty Bell had a match last week. Thunder Rosa sort of interfered and tried to, spook her. I don't know exactly what it was, like, bring me over to the dark side kind of thing. But Bell was having none of it. So Marty Bell runs in as Thunder Rosa is doing the beatdown, and Rosa sort of holds up the beaten Vox, sort of like as an offering. It's like, come on, slug her one. She's good. Just go right in, lay one in there. But Marty Bell doesn't do anything. So Thunder Rosa just drops her there, and she goes away, and that stays so that's end scene. That's what I'm trying to say here. However, Marty Bell then after has an interview with Marquez outside of the ring. And she says, I don't know who Thunder Rosa is. I don't know anything about her. I don't know what she's trying to do, what she wants from me, but I do know Allison Kay. Ooh, okay. She's my best friend. And she says that she's heard that Allison Kay a few weeks ago came out and said that she's not ready. That she's not ready for a championship title, and that really hurt her. So that actually brings Allison Kay out to the ring, and she says, "Dude, come on, man, we could have settled this in the back. Why are you out here grieving, airing out your grievances like this is like Twitter or something. This isn't Twitter. We could be talking amongst ourselves, trying to work this out. I've heard of some really good therapists that we could go to fix our issues, together. Anywho, as she said, well, that's what she says, right? She says, this isn't Dr. Phil. That's what she says. And as she's talking, Thunder Rosa blindsides her. It's an ambush. And she starts beating up on Allison Kay and tosses her back into the ring where she beats on her some more. And Marty Bell's not doing anything. Marty Bell is some kind of friend you are, Marty Bell. Your best friend Allison Kay is getting blindsided, getting smacked around, and you're not doing anything? Well, there's a reason for that, because eventually when she does get into the ring, you think that it's to help out Allison Kay, but no, she starts kicking Allison Kay, beats her down, and Thunder Rosa is very pleased with herself. Her work here is done. She dragged Marty Bell into the dark side, and this is cool. I'm going to tell you guys something very, very... Look, anyone who listens to what I do know that I am a big, big proponent and a fan of women's wrestling. Now, I know that the NWA women's division is not huge right now, but they are focusing very specifically on some women. We knew they were going to make a big deal out of Allison Kay because she's the champ. We knew they were going to make a big deal out of Thunder Rosa because they've been building her. But look at what they did with Marty Bell here. They're even tossing Ashley Vox in here. I mean, she's been used as enhancement talent, but nonetheless, she has been included into these storylines. I really appreciate, despite the fact that they have a very small roster, and the women have been showcased, I think, since just about episode 2, moving forward, that they have already defined very, very clear characters, very, very clear feuds, and have created a nifty little storyline that involves their 2 top stars plus another star. So they're already building 3 women, 3 stars for their division to carry it on forward. I hate, there's with all its resources and all the talent that it has picked up, I can't even say AEW has been doing this good a job. They've been throwing their women together into matches. They've been, you're not quite sure who they're focusing on. Not quite sure who's being built. Who are the stars, really? It's all been a mess. It hasn't been smooth sailing for the women's division in AEW, and they've been on for a few weeks. We still don't know. It's been very, very back and forth. And they're still sitting on some fantastic talent, such as Sadie Gibbs, who we saw so far on AEW Dark. I mean, Rio's fantastic, but already we're at a point where, well, who's the next contender for Rio? Because she's already beaten Nyla. She's fought Britt Baker. I mean, who's next for Rio? They're not building anyone in the meantime. Whereas here, very simply, very effectively, you got 3 women that we instantly care about, that we're like, okay, well, let's see what happens next. Very, very well done. I'm good with it. Makes me happy. We have another commercial for The Mark. Who is The Mark? I love this. Then we have the two out of 3 pinfalls match between Aaron Stevens and Ricky Starks, who actually won, who defeated Aaron Stevens 2-0. He gets a first fast pinfall 3 seconds in on Aaron Stevens. By the way, we need to take a moment, everyone here in the chat, anyone who's here in the chat, press T for flesh-colored trunks. We have to appreciate trunks. Aaron Stevens' flesh-colored trunks. They are magnificent. Stevens then after the second pin, and Stevens sort of regains his composure. Starks goes after him very, very quickly, full steam, but Stevens wants to slow it down. But Starks hits a running dropkick, covers him for 2. Stevens gets back in control with a poke in the eye. Some punches follow. He covers him, but only gets 2. Stark fights back out of a headlock, then elbows Stevens down, a clothesline, an uppercut, a running elbow, hits a springboard DDT, and he covers Stevens for 2. Stevens then dodges a drop kick, curtsies for the audience, tells them that they're knaves, but that allows Starks to roll him up while he's being a douchebag, and gets the second pin and wins the match. I thought that was fantastic. And then Stevens is just like, he's just stunned. He's like, he lost, and he does the no, and the audience answers yes. And it's great. Have you noticed how fantastic the audience is in regards to Stevens and his reactions? They're just like, they don't like him, and they're ready to chant at him that he sucks, that he's lost, that he's stupid. And he plays with it. Stevens is so good at it. He's a likable heel. You know? He's not like Jay White, where you just like, ugh, I hate this guy. He's a likable heel because you just like to aggravate him. You know all the little things. You know how to push all of his buttons already. He's terrible. And what was it earlier on his first when he was doing his promo, and he said, I found out recently that I'm the great grandson of William Shakespeare, right? And everyone starts booing, and he says, are you booing Shakespeare? Oh, I love it. Shout out to JS Brown and Carlos, who pressed T for the trunks. And Kristen Ashley says she'll never do it. Wags5115, how you doing? Says, wait till they let Camille go after all of them. Oh, in the women's division. Yes. See, that very good point. You know, Camille, the strong, silent killer, I guess. We'll see when they let her go, when they uncork her, see what happens. And Carlos says, are the trunks on the same level as Cameron Grimes' hat over on NXT? Listen, I think, it's kind of like comparing apples to nectarines. Because one is headwear, where you expect it to be, a little flashy, a little out of the ordinary, something that will pique interest, that will be a conversation piece. I'm just saying. Whereas the trunks, you expect the trunks you expect a certain level of respectability when it comes to the trunks. Whether they can be flashy, but you don't expect them to be what's the word I'm looking for? You don't expect the trunks or the tights to be you don't expect them to be gross. I guess. But when they are, and they're done in such a way where they are perfectly gross, you cannot not love them. And I love Aaron Stevens' flesh-colored trunks. And he had pink knee pads. That was quite a fashion choice right there. Oh, and there's going to be the NWA is going to be in Retromania Wrestling, the new video game that's coming up from that studio Retrosoft Games. They're putting it out next year. I'm excited to see that. I'm down for some old school Super Nintendo style wrestling. That'll be fun. So we're going to get some NWA people in there. That's great. That's great. We'll get some licensing, a little money for the dudes and the dudettes. On to our main event. Colt Cabana defeated James Storm to become the NWA national champ. Colt Cabana is accompanied to the ring by Ken Anderson, by Mr. Anderson, Ken Anderson, while James Storm is accompanied by Eli Drake, and Cabana is in control early on. He flips Storm over, covers him, only gets 2. Storm crotches Cabana in the corner, though. He sets him up on the corner and then sort of leg sweeps him. So that catches Cabana in les balls. And then he DDTs him off the turnbuckle to the mat. He being Storm. Storm then starts working Cabana's leg. He goes to he goes up, climbs up on the turnbuckle ropes. He jumps off. Cabana lifts the boot. Storm catches the boot, lands on his feet and catches the boot, but Cabana uses his free foot to kick him right in the face. And he starts to mount a comeback with some chops, a flying head scissors. Cabana avoids a corner charge with a sunset flip, covers Storm, but only gets a dos. Storm hits a nice looking TKO right over the top rope. That sends Cabana to the floor. Storm hits a basement drop kick. Flying elbow drop from the top rope, follows, covers Cabana, but it only gets 2. Storm sets him up again and chops. Boom, boom, Cabana. But I mean, chops right across the body. That was loud. He even sold that it hurt his hand. And you know what? It probably wasn't even that hard to sell. It looked like it hurt everyone. He climbs up top with Cabana, but Cabana shoves him off the top rope. And he jumps off and does the land on his feet, then into a splash spot. Covers Storm, but only gets 2. Storm nails a backstabber on Cabana. Covers him, but again only gets 2. Storm follows in with a series of kicks, hits the eye of the Storm, covers, but again only gets 2. Now Eli Drake jumps up on the apron. Anderson drags him off, and they start jaw-jacking. They go at it, but Camille comes in, and Anderson knocks Drake down. He wants to go after Drake and beat him up, but Camille steps in to keep him away. That's interesting. What's her deal here? But back in the ring as this is happening, Cabana gets the pinfall on James Storm and gets the win. I got to tell you, this might be right here. There was a lot of action, as it's usually the thing. There's a lot of stuff going on in an NWA show or in Power. But as it stands right now, this was probably the wonkiest bit of production that I've seen since the beginning of Power, where there's a lot of camera work focused on what's happening outside. Meanwhile, Cabana is getting the pin inside the ring, and we really catch only the tail end of it, so that where he wins basically the title. So, I mean, it's a minor gripe, and it's the first time that we actually see something as, I don't want to use the word egregious. It wasn't that bad, but still, it's the distraction on the outside distracted us all from Colt Cabana winning the title. That was, we did get the replay and everything was fine, but in the moment is what I mean. It's like, And then we think that this was our main event, right? And the Power is over, but no, we're wrong. We're wrong. The Dawsons come back out and they say they want their match with Kingston and Homicide right now. And that's wild. It's like cuckoo wild. And they're like, okay, they're like, get us a ref. Where's the ref? And the ref comes in. And then the commentary's putting over the fact, we're at the end of the show, folks. I mean, this is out of our control. We're supposed to go to credits here. And I like that. This was all about the spontaneity, just having something happen out of nowhere. Commentary's doing a great job putting over blah, 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 blah. We're not ready for this. Kingston and Homicide run in. The bell is rung. We have our match. The boys brawl. The Dawsons work over Kingston with some very dirty brawling. They stay in control. Eye pokes happen. And Kingston eventually fights back, but he can't make it to tag Homicide in because Homicide gets thrown off the apron by those dastardly Dawsons. Double stalling suplex again by the Dawsons. Can't put Kingston away, and he finally makes the tag over the Homicide. After doing an STO, actually gets the hot tag to Homicide. Avalanches in either Dawson. Both Dawsons are in separate corners, and Homicide is just running avalanches on either corner. Homicide kicks Dawson's off the apron onto the wild card. The NWA Tag Team Champions were out there for some reason. There's a bit of an awkward spot, but it happened. The wild card are involved. They try to get involved, but you know who comes out to make sure that the wild card don't get too involved? The goddamn Rock and Roll Express show up. That's who. The Rock and Roll Express show up on NWA Power to make sure that the wild card keep their goddamn nose out of this business. This match has nothing to do with them. Stay out of it, you chumps. You're not gonna make the better men here are going to win. Man, it's so wild. The Rock and Roll Express, right? They were on AEW last week. Earlier this year, they were in New Japan. They had a match in Game Changer Wrestling against the former LAX, Santana and Ortiz. And now they're on NWA 2019, and the Rock and Roll Express are working all the promotions. They're everywhere. It's wild, guys and gals. So the wild card get beat up. There's a side slam on Homicide. Meanwhile in the ring, Dawson's cover, but he kicks out at 2. The Dawsons miss their finisher, and Kingston hits the back fist from the future right into Homicide who gets a cutter, and that does it. I guess Outlaw Inc. are your number 1 contenders for the NWA titles. I am glad because Eddie Kingston is fantastic. Homicide is great. I'm not sold on the Dawsons, guys. I'm not. I think they're I think they're a little sloppy. But that's okay. It's okay that I think that. But this makes a lot of sense, and I think with Wildcard, it'll give us a good match. Is this something that they're going to reserve for the pay-per-view, or are we going to get that on an upcoming episode of POWERRR? That's what I want to see. Because they do have a pay-per-view coming up, December 14, if I'm not mistaken. I'm excited to see that. It's cool, though. It's a cool time. Look, NWA's having their first pay-per-view. MLW had their very first pay-per-view this weekend, which I haven't had the opportunity to see, but Kristen Ashley did cover it. She thought it was really, really good. It was a great show. A lot of people thought it was a great show. So it's a really exciting time to be a wrestling fan, and it's really fascinating to see NWA Power every week out there on YouTube, just tearing it up with an hour show. And speaking of hour shows, I was saying to myself, NWA is an hour. There's no way I'm going to do an hour show, an hour recap show. But here I am, 43 minutes in. Oh, Warren. I always come in with the best intentions. I'm like, I'll keep this short. Yeah, 20, 25 minutes. I'll be done. Yeah, sure. I want to thank you, everyone who joined us this evening. If you're watching this, give it a thumbs up. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, do consider giving it a like or a review or whatever it is that you can do to show the Warren Hayes Show a little support. If you like this, let me know. Let me know if you enjoyed this recap. Might do some more because this was fun. It's always a nice. I'm a fan of the underdog. I'm a sucker for an underdog. Kind of feel that NWA is in that territory, and they're doing such fantastic work. Why not talk about it a little more? Why not talk about it more? I'd be okay with that. I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. This was a good time. Remember to tip your waiter and to come back on Thursday for the full edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, the typical Thursday show. In the meantime, thank you all so very much, and I will see you next time.